welcome. I am Kevin Hauber. I lead the Gold Mining Circle, and today we have David Kaar with us. We're here to talk about different states of being in the personal versus transpersonal discussion. Wanted to go ahead and let David give us some commentary, some feedback on that, and set a framework, since he is the guy that brought this issue forward to begin with and frame this up for us. So welcome, David. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this wisdom comes from many sources and streams, Buddhism and integral and lots of things. None of it's original with me, but I like to think I pioneered some of the application for it. And it's essentially, you can look at life and experience in these three regimes or states or categories. Gross physical, which is ordinary life, kind of go to work, pay your taxes, buy groceries, take care of your health, and kind of ordinary life. And the next is, that's about stuff that's mine and I can touch. But if the quantity of your possessions made you happy, we would be a nation of ecstatics. We've got so much stuff, we have to go rent more space to put it in, and yet how happy are we? So happiness actually comes from work in the second regime, which is the emotional, personal emotional. Many traditions call it the subtle, and it's about stuff that's real but I can't touch. Emotions, feelings, colors, energies, mental constructs. So they're very real, but I can't touch them. And I can identify with them. They're largely mine. I mean, my feelings, my emotions. So they're still personal, but they're a very different kind of reality. And the New Warrior training for many men is a transition from gross physical to subtle causal. My experience was before that life was black and white. After that, it was technicolor. I mean, it was just so qualitatively different. It was hard to, I couldn't have imagined it before. And afterwards, I couldn't imagine living without it. So, and so a lot of happiness comes from that our happiness, the quality of our lives comes from the quality of our relationships, not the quantity of our possessions. And then after that is causal. Causal is meaning, purpose. It's mission in our gold mining very much lives in the causal realm, and it's real, and I can't touch it, and is it mine? Well, it's transpersonal. I mean, it's mine and it's others. I mean, if I'm really living my mission, it's more like my mission is living me. I'm the glove and causal is the hand inside. It's the God spark in each of us that allows us to do really important things. That we create meaning in life. We don't go out and discover meaning under a rock or behind a tree. We actually push meaning out into life through the work we do. And that's causal. So beliefs and mission and purpose and meaning. And there's a trap at each of these levels. At the gross physical, it's stuff. I mean, it's sex, drugs, money, possessions, materialism, workaholism. Those are all the traps at the gross physical. I want more stuff. I'd be happy if I get more stuff. I get more stuff, and am I happy? No. But I think if I get even more, well, that's a trap. That's a gerbil on a wheel in the cage. At the subtle level, there's also a trap, which is I get involved with my feelings, and it feels good to feel. It feels good to emote, even crying, laughing, all that anger. It feels good, and I can get into a cycle where I want to keep feeling my feelings. I just want to keep feeling them, and do the same work in my group every week because it feels good. But at some point it becomes activity rather than progress. Again, a gerbil on a wheel in the cage. And there is, while feelings have energy and information, they don't have any meaning. The Buddhists call they're empty of any permanent self-nature. They don't mean anything. I mean, the fact that I'm angry, gives me information and gives me energy, but it doesn't actually mean anything. And so there is, and I want to be careful when I say this, that, feelings and getting in touch with our emotions and being confident is very important. But at some point, they're just my feelings. And what really matters is moving into causal, which is my purpose, my mission, bringing meaning to life. That's why we're here. And that's what we'll leave behind when we're gone. We may leave behind a pile of stuff that other people will have to clean out, or and we're going to take our feelings with us, and people will remember us. But what we really leave behind is the purpose work that we've accomplished, and making the world better for our children's children. And the trap at that level is a little more subtle. It's tricky. It's called spiritual bypass, where you try to jump from gross physical straight to causal, going over the emotional, because it's so damn messy. I mean, if you could go, a lot of people try that, and they get very disciplined. They get very good at causal stuff. But they end up being really good robots. They're and this is been called Zen disease. It's also called cult trolls, or some landmark people can suffer from this, where you just you get good at that purpose meaning stuff, but you're a lousy human being. Nobody wants to spend any time around you because you're just because our humanness and our vulnerability comes from doing our emotional work. And in fact, it's our vulnerability that makes us lovable. I mean, why do I've got a new grandson. He's 2 months old, and they're just absolutely vulnerable and absolutely lovable. And that's not a coincidence. That's not an accident. And even as adults, I'm less. I don't always like feeling vulnerable, but it's my willing to be vulnerable that actually lets other people connect with me to love me. And if you jump over that middle range, that subtle emotional work, you can't expose your vulnerability, and it's very, very hard for people to love you. And they may respect you, but it's hard to love you. So that's spiritual bypass, and it's really important to do my emotional work. And the other good thing is then when I get to causal, I don't take myself so seriously, because I know Leonard Cohen had this great line. And he spent 5 years at a Zen monastery up on Mount Baldy. He said, "I'm just a lazy bastard living in a suit." And he didn't take himself too seriously. And you'll notice people like the Dalai Lama, people that are really enlightened, don't take themselves too seriously. They can poke fun at themselves and laugh at themselves, and they're very approachable. So that's what I aspire to be. And I think that's one of the payoffs of doing your emotional work and then moving into the causal realm. So.
Well, one of the things that we talk about in the written piece is about the fluidity to be able to move back and forth, and the cyclical nature of that, of even, once you've done the gross physical work, once you've done the personal emotional work and begun working on the transpersonal and causal work, that there is still a dynamic of cycling through
Yeah,
that kind of work, and that things continue to show up.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I need to eat every day. I need to take care of myself. I need a good night's sleep. I need to take care of this vehicle, my body, and that's gross physically. I need to earn money, support myself, and have a place to live. So that those needs don't go away. You need to meet them. You just don't. You've got to focus. It's larger than that. When those needs are met, you move on. And same with I have emotional stuff come up. I get angry at people, or I get disappointed or whatever, and need to process it. And it none of that goes away. So you are moving back and forth between these states all the time. But having done adequate work in the first two, you can spend some time in the third one and actually accomplish something. Which is, I think, where your gold mining work is excellent, because you're pointing to that's, I mean, gold mining is a good metaphor for that work.
Yeah, especially with the stuff that you have to dig through.
Yeah,
well, and
yeah.
I love that term that I think you were the one who originally used this term of transcend and include.
Well, it comes from
these different levels.
Yeah, it comes from spiral dynamics, which has been incorporated in Integral. But yeah, it's that the idea is that half a dozen developmental stages cultures go through, and an individual goes through in growing up. And as you move through each stage, you move to the next one, you get more capabilities, but you want to include what you learned before, just like you include learning how to take care of yourself physically and how to take care of yourself emotionally, and then transcend that to go on to other stages. And spiral dynamics is like 6 stages, and it's I recommend its study. And then we're trying to get to what they call second tier, which is very analogous to causal. So.
Any particular perspective that you would want to offer on the mission work in particular, and the things to watch for as men go through that process and start entering the causal work?
Well, at first, my mission is based on my wound, my what I didn't get enough of, or whatever growing up, and so I want to bring that into the world, and that's perfectly valid. But after a while, I'll move beyond that to having some sense of the something unique I can bring to the world, and that it comes out of my life and comes out of my whole life, but isn't tied necessarily just to my childhood trauma or whatever my wound happened to been.
So a transitioning from a mission that's an outgrowth of woundedness to a mission that's an outgrowth of gifts and
Right.
of what essence is.
Right. An outgrowth of the sense of blessing that life is. I mean, 11 years ago, last month, I fell off a mountain. That's a little more dramatic. I fell off a walkway along rocks, but I fell about 15 feet onto rocks and rolled down. My shoulder, this shoulder's all artificial place. If my head had hit wherever my shoulder hit, then it brought me up in a body bag. So I've lived with what my Zen Roshi Fujin Tenpinner calls grace time ever since then. That I've been grateful for every day of being alive, because I knew that there was one day I almost wasn't. And that gratitude, gratitude and compassion is what I try to live my life out of. And that's where I look for my mission. How can I express the gratitude of being alive and compassion for my fellow humans, and what I do.
Beautiful. Thank you. anything else that you'd want to bring as commentary for this subject?
Yeah, one other thing I mentioned, we're working on something called Praxis, which is, and also that's my dragon training, but it's that there's something at the intersection of shadow work, which is what we do, our emotional work, and Mankind Project and other places. A lot of other organizations do it, but doing our emotional work, intense emotional work, and a spiritual practice. It could be Zen. It can be, generally it means some kind of meditation. It doesn't actually have to be any specific discipline, but a spiritual practice. I call myself a Zen Baptist. So, because those are my two traditions. And then integral as a map. There's a lot to integral, and some of it's a bit more complicated maybe than is useful, but it's a very useful map. These three levels of reality, the spiral dynamics levels. So those three things together, I think, are going to help us create what comes after AD, the next cultural consensus, the next level of humanity, be a global culture. And I think these three things are going to be an important component of it. And in the Mankind Project, we're one of the few people putting those things together to make something powerful. So I guess that would be my final comment.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate you taking the time to discuss this, and blessings to you for everything that you brought, and for bringing this whole subject material into view, and helping me to try and get it out there further.
My pleasure. I'm honored that you asked. Take care.
Thank you, David.